What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a Chi-Town Blitz episode. We got a great episode for you guys today. We got a lot to talk about. A lot has been happening. The Bears, Ryan Poles cooked for just a week. It seems like he changed the offensive line and the defensive line in just a matter of a week, improving both sides of the ball. Let's start off with, two news that happened today. Travis Homer and Doug Kramer, one of your favorite players, is back. What are your thoughts on this?
I think, good locker room guys. Obviously, Travis Homer brings the special teams aspect of it.
Good special teams player.
So I think it's more special teams oriented for him. Can't see him having a role in the offense. And then, Doug Kramer, good for him getting re-signed, even though he got injured. But I like the moxie he showed last year. So
he's a good as depth, but don't ever put his ass in that I formation again. Don't put him in the backfield, full back no more.
Did anybody hire our former offensive coordinator?
No, I don't think. I don't think so. Wait, actually, Shane Waldron might have been like a pass game coordinator somewhere else. Yeah, you could look it up. I have off the top of my head, I can't put it. He's probably got a job. I think he's got a job with Jacksonville. Yeah.
Pass game
Liam Courtney. I told you. So he gonna fuck that shit up.
Don't draft Trevor Lawrence.
In fantasy? Dude, that's been your guy too. Trevor Lawrence has been one of your...
I usually wait to get a quarterback because, there's just so many that put up a lot of numbers and, you could just pick the one that's going against the worst pass defense that week and in waivers, so
yeah,
I usually like to buy low at the QB spot, and he was just there. So in the last few rounds, but still was terrible.
Trash. You've been calling him an MVP candidate every year too, and you'll fall in the trap.
Former first overall pick.
I think. Yeah. I think this might be the year where you can go out and predict it, and he could have one of his best seasons.
Beat Justin Herbert in a playoff game after throwing 3 picks. One of the best comebacks in playoff history,
that was an insane
arguably.
Game.
So
if anybody can do it, Trevor Lawrence can.
Exactly.
And especially with Brian Thomas Jr., who looks like a solidified weapon.
Yeah,
he's got
number one.
Liam Cohen is his new head coach, quarterback guru, what he did with Baker last year in that offense with Tampa Bay. Definitely a lot to be excited about over there. But let's get into the free agency for the Chicago Bears. What grade are we giving Ryan Poles for what he's done so far? Everybody's giving him an A+.
Yeah, I would definitely say an A. Maybe not the plus, just because I feel like we could have did better at that third receiver.
Okay.
Even though it's maybe not necessary. And then edge, I think we're taking a big. I love Dio. I think he brings a lot to the table, but he's not that big name that you could be like, oh yeah, you're betting on his potential, and he's a younger guy, smart guy too, coming from Vandy, so huge, perfect Dennis Allen prototype. So
he's kind of got that Cam Jordan body.
But it's not a home run.
Yeah. There's a lot more uncertainty about it. Like Josh Sweat, he went for $19 million, I think, less than 20. I think he was like 19 or 20 million. So. And you get Dio for 16 million. So $3 million more, you would much rather probably have Josh Sweat because he's proven he could be a double-digit sack guy. He's shown in the Super Bowl he could step up big. There's a little more certainty with that. But I like the Dio signing, and the aspect is, I've seen some people talk about the lack of depth in defensive tackle in free agency. Not a lot of quality guys there, and Dio can play both. He can play outside. He can play inside. DeMarcus Walker is the comparison, but higher ceiling.
Way faster, way more athletic, bigger, younger.
And I think with,
No, I wouldn't compare him to him.
Yeah, with Indianapolis, the Colts last year, that defense was terrible. Like the secondary, quarterbacks were getting the ball out quick against the Colts. They were having a lot of success because that secondary was so poor. It was tough for a guy like Dio to tee off, guys to have high sack production. But you look at the 8 sack year he had, not last season, 2022 or 2023. That's what we're going for. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we can get that more out of him. And I think Dennis Allen's a great coach, great defensive mind. Our secondary is phenomenal. So I think out in Chicago, he'll be able to be more towards that 8 sack number instead of 3 sacks this year.
Yeah, I agree. I love his potential, and I think he'll play a huge role. And then even to the Josh Sweat point, I don't think dude could replicate his numbers when he was on an all-star team, all-star defense, and an all-star defensive line in Philly.
Even the year he had 11 sacks, he had Javon Hargrave, who had double-digit sacks that year too. Hassan Reddick off the other side of the edge. So yeah,
and then obviously the Hall of Famer as well,
Brandon Graham. Who?
Brandon Graham.
Yeah.
So they had another guy in the
Fletcher Cox.
Fletcher Cox. Yeah.
They had some meat up front, or some men. But I do think Josh Sweat would have been nice. But I like where Ryan Poles went with that direction. Mm-hmm. You think about it. Okay, I'm gonna get sure things in the offensive line. Offensive line, there's no question marks about it. I mean, Jonah Jackson, but. We've seen him.
Not a question mark.
Yeah, we've seen him be a Pro Bowler with Ben Johnson.
They played him at center. He was hurt a lot of the year, so I'm not tripping on that.
Yeah, I think Joe Tooney, that might be the best offensive lineman the Bears have ever had in their franchise history. Like, he's a Hall of Fame. This guy's going to the Hall of Fame.
No question, especially if he goes and replicates what he did at his last 2 stops in Chicago, which would be the hope, the embarrassment.
And getting Drew Dahlman, the best center available, so he did not miss where he needed to, hit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Took a shot on Dio, obviously. Hopefully that pans out. And I think it will be one of the most underrated signings of this free agency period when we look back at it during the season. So I think I give him an A+. I think Ryan Poles did a great job. And where I commend Ryan Poles, too, in another aspect other than free agency, is just being able to see the market and see what's ahead. Mm-hmm. You look at, the deals, the extensions that are coming out. The players are getting paid a bag. And DJ Moore, his extension was early, $27.5 million a year, and the 7th highest paid receiver at the time. Now he's the 11th highest paid receiver. Quality receiver, I think he'll put up, top 10 receiver numbers this year, maybe fringe top 5, top 6 production with Ben Johnson and Jalen Johnson. We can argue maybe Pat Surtain is a better corner than him, but I don't have another corner that I'm giving the nod to over Jalen Johnson right off the bat without an argument.
Right. We ain't paying him $90 million either.
He got paid $19 million a year, and at the time he was the 9th highest paid corner. Now he's the 13th highest paid corner in the NFL.
$11 million less.
That is crazy. So Ryan Poles, we got to commend him with that. Kyler Gordon, you got to get ahead of that one too, though, because the money that's coming out, Kyler Gordon, how good he is, especially with Dennis Allen, that defense he's going to bring, the aggressiveness, we're going to blitz more. I think Kyler Gordon could have an all-pro level season, and having to give him a bag after that kind of season, yeah, it's going to be tough. So hopefully Ryan Poles gets an extension done with him before the season starts. My thing with this offseason, though, Bears, they win, the offseason every year. It's the offseason champs for the 3rd time in a row.
But we're winning by a bigger margin every year, too.
Yes. Oh, it's getting the wins are meaning a little more.
Yes.
First, we're winning, shoring up things, getting extensions done, bringing in guys like T.J. Edwards, which I think was a huge guy, to bring in Tremaine Edmonds, getting DJ Moore in the mix of receiver for our now generational quarterback. Then it was, getting Caleb Williams in the draft, moving on from Justin Fields. Now it's getting Ben Johnson. I think this offseason feels different, though. I feel like Grady Jarrett and Joe Tooney are different moves. These are moves that you can actually be like, all right, these are moves that you could feel the impact already.
No question. And you got a lot of people in the media have been making this point that it's Ben Johnson's team. He's the leader in charge.
What do you think about that?
The shot.
You think he's calling the moves, or is it 50-50, him and Ryan Poles? Or is it just, all Ben Johnson?
Well, we know the Joe Johnson, right?
Jonah Jackson.
Jonah Jackson
That was Ben Johnson's guy.
Johnson, like, no question.
Drew Dahlman, I think Drew Dahlman was a guy Ben Johnson was like, I need him in.
I think it was our needs were so obvious.
Yeah.
And Poles mentioned this earlier in the offseason, like when the needs are so clear, your strategy can almost be simple. Whereas
you can be aggressive,
3 years ago, we needed everything. And we was in cap hell. So. We're in the opposite situation this offseason, so we could really
and it was
swing
clear.
the bat and make take strategic risks.
It was clear as day what this Bears team needed. I mean,
exactly.
Getting the interior, everybody knew the interior needed to be fixed, and Ryan Poles wasted no time. Jonah Jackson trading for him, Joe Thuney trading for him. And, I mean, hot take or call it what you want, but I think Joe Thuney's a bigger addition than getting Trey Smith. Now, depending on what they do, if they draft a replacement for Joe Thuney in the mix too, then that's a better move. Because Joe Thuney, he's a better player. He's 32 years old, but what he can bring from a leadership perspective, playing at an all-pro level still. Last season, I think he was like 10th in voting for Offensive Player of the Year or something crazy. Like his name was
MVP of the Chiefs.
Yeah, and
played left tackle.
Him playing left tackle and holding his own against Myles Garrett, T.J. Watt, some of the best pass rushers in the NFL, as a guy that's mostly inside playing left guard majority of his career. You can't say enough good things about Joe Thuney, so I'm excited what he's going to bring to this team. Grady Jarrett.
I was wondering when he was going to bring his name up.
Who, Grady Jarrett?
Yeah.
Dude, the press conference was phenomenal.
Yeah, phenomenal.
He reminds me of, remember we brought in Akeem Hicks? But I think he'll be better than Akeem Hicks was up for us.
Akeem Hicks was a beast.
He was a beast, but he's going to be that run stopper. I think he'll get after the quarterback, too. I think he still has some – I think he could give us still, these three years that are in this deal. It's kind of a 2-year deal. Another thing, on Ryan Poles, how he set up things, he made sure to set up all these contracts, all these people he brought in for when Caleb Williams' time is to get paid. Mm-hmm. They're all 3-year deals, but they're 2-year deals. You can get yourself out of these contracts, and it's time to pay Caleb Williams. So I think that was brilliant. But Grady Jarrett, him and Dexter and Billings, that D tackle rotation is nice now.
Yes,
it's extremely nice.
Yes, and I think the biggest thing is the depth piece. Mm-hmm. Definitely
we needed interior help on both sides of the ball,
and a combination of veterans and younger players. Like you bring in a 10-year vet like Grady Jarrett, hopefully he can bring around the young guys and develop the guys we're expecting a little bit more about, especially Javon Dexter and Zach Pickens, which is that a miss? Are we calling that a whiff in the draft?
He's definitely got to fight to make this roster, though. I don't think he's automatically given a roster spot. Depending on what the Bears do in the draft, too, do they take a defensive tackle? I think they should. You bring in a defensive tackle. You have Chris Williams, who you just tendered him. Yep. He was solid for us last year, 3 sacks. Now you have Grady Jarrett, Dexter, Billings is going to be back healthy. Chris Williams. Maybe you signed a veteran defensive tackle. I don't like who's left in free agency right now, but you draft a defensive tackle like Alfred Collins from Texas is really nice. There's some talented players in the trenches in the defensive line. It's a deep class. You add one of those pieces in the mix, he's on that bubble. He's gonna be on the practice squad because I feel like he hasn't shown us enough.
And he's been injured.
Yes, he was injured for majority last season. I really like the upside with him, the traits, the size. He has a lot of good things, that potentially could be brought out of him, but we just haven't seen too much from him. Dominic Robinson, he's definitely going to be gone. Dom Robinson, he's out of here. Mm-hmm. But back on the free agency moves, I'm going to ask you 3 questions.
All right.
What is the best move this free agency? This offseason for the Bears? What is the move that will make the most impact? And what is your favorite move?
Best and most impact? That's tough. I think the best move has to be the Drew Dahlman signing because of the poor center play we've had.
Lucas Patrick.
Since Mustafa. So it's been a while since we had a solid guy, and they put Band-Aids on that position for the last 3 to 5 years. And I'm just grateful that we won't see a nigga on film just getting blown the fuck up into our quarterback.
Coleman Shelton had some really bad reps this season.
Like, what the fuck? Where you just getting your shit by linebackers, too. Like, come on, man.
Majority of the sacks had to come from interior. I don't know the numbers right off the back of my head, but, like, most of the pressures came from the interior. Our interior play was so poor. So I agree with you. Drew Dahlman, fantastic signing. Best center available in free agency. And he took less money to come to the Bears, too. So, which was really good. You know, he could have went to other spots. But, yeah, coming to Chicago. Joe Thuney obviously is a huge move, but the center sets the tone for the whole offensive line. If you could have a great left guard, but your center, if he's ass, you can't do shit. You can't run in the A gap. You got pressure coming up the middle. Some of these, like, who's going to block Kenny Clark when you play the Packers? Who's going to, block some of the Minnesota Vikings guys they got up in the interior? So Drew Dahlman, important get. And I think he just fits a scheme for the Bears so well. One of the best zone blockers, one of the best run blocking centers in the NFL. PFF numbers all can back that up. So really excited. 6'3", 300 pounds, smaller center, but he's athletic, he's fast. I'm excited about that. What do you think? What move do you think will make the most impact?
I'm gonna go with Thuney just because he brings the leadership, the veteran Super Bowl champion pedigree.
I mean, blocking for Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, not Caleb.
Not Caleb. So, like, that's the holy trinity if we are lucky.
Yeah.
Which I think that's what it's going to be. So, that's, and then you shore up, like, the right side of our offensive line, and now we should have a true strength in when it's third and short. Think about how many third and shorts, second and shorts, fourth and shorts we didn't convert last year because we weren't able to impose our will on the defensive line. So
now we have somebody.
Now, when Detroit is third and short, fourth and short, when the Eagles are third and short, fourth and short,
they're getting that
shit. So now we can be in that conversation with turning a weakness into a strength.
I mean, running behind Drew Dahlman and Thuney, that's exciting. I mean, because Bijan Robinson, he was most effective running the ball in the A gap and stuff behind Drew Dahlman. Put up his best, production. Was most productive. I think he had 5 yards a carry behind Dahlman. So whoever our running back is this, coming up season, they're gonna have a lot of carries, a lot of yardage in between that left side A gap. Even Jonah Jackson, he's a mauler too. Yes. Him and Darnell Wright. Have you seen a picture of Jonah Jackson? It looks just like Darnell Wright. Yes. They look just alike. They look exactly the same.
They do, and they're big as shit.
So I'm excited about having
faces.
They both look like bears. But I'm excited about the right side, the left side now, and I think Joe Thuney having that experience. And I like him on the left side. If we don't upgrade the left tackle position, Braxton Jones at least has an all-pro level guard next to him,
And I think that will improve his play as well.
Exactly.
Just because he's playing with four. We don't have any weaknesses on the other four spots. So instead of having a chip for three motherfuckers on the line, 4 motherfuckers sometimes last year, we only have to chip for one player.
Right. And you think about it,
because he can hold his own.
Yeah, and it's like he's an above average starter at left tackle. If he's our worst player on the offensive line now too, I'll take that.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
You can chip a left tackle. You can't chip a fucking center. Though.
Yeah.
Or a guard.
Or both of your guards, bro. Fucking Matt Fryer and Nate Davis. So I think, Joe Thuney is the signing that will make the most impact. Your favorite signing, your favorite move so far?
It's tough.
The Zacchaeus guy?
I do like
He's
Zacchaeus.
Got some grit.
I like Zacchaeus. He made some plays, put up some pretty nice numbers.
He was an underrated weapon with Jaden Daniels this year.
Yeah, no, I liked his film, and I like his interview talking to the media earlier this week. So he brings some things. It's hard for me to say favorite and pick one just because we got 3 offensive linemen.
Yeah.
So if you ask me my favorite, it would be the 3 offensive linemen we draft. Because I'm like, every time, I watch Bears Chat Now or whatever it's called. Chat Sports.
HG.
And then he throws up the graphic with everybody, the roster with, the offensive line.
I get excited about that.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Look at this. All right. Braxton Jones, Tevin Jenkins, Coleman Shelton, Matt Pryor, Darnell Wright. Offensive line for last year, right?
Right.
This year, Joe Tooney, Drew Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, Darnell Wright, Braxton Jones. It just moves you to tears, damn near.
Yeah, no, it gets me excited. So
yeah,
if I can't choose those 3, I really like the Grady Jarrett move just because he's a 10-year vet. We got some rookie D tackles young D tackles, I should say, that can learn a lot from a guy like that, and you can tell he's hungry,
passionate
to prove people wrong, especially coming off the injury 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Or a year ago, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, he played
played all 17.
All 17 games this year following that injury, and I think what I like about it a lot is having that passion. We look at the Eagles. They had a guy like C.J. Gardner-Johnson who brought that swagger, who just gives you that shit talker, that guy that's just gonna give everybody that, passion. We didn't really have a guy like that on our defense, I feel like. We had a bunch of guys, quiet.
Niggas was getting pushed around once Billings.
That's what I'm saying. So Grady Jarrett's that guy that's gonna go out there and rile shit around
from day one.
Exactly.
We almost lost our first game against
Tennessee,
and they were pushing us pretty well.
That's what I'm saying. So that's another thing. He's going to help our run defense. But yeah, like he was calling, there was a clip, mic'd up. He was calling what's his name, Jordan Love, a little bitch, and he was excited about playing the Packers twice a year now. Yep. So I like that shit.
Me too.
That's why I think about the Akeem Hicks, because Akeem Hicks was a tone setter.
Yep.
He was out there, making plays.
He was a mountain of a man.
That's what I'm saying.
Pause.
Giving the defense, riling the defense up. That's what we needed on this defense. And Montez Sweat is probably our best defensive lineman, right? I mean, he is our best defensive lineman, but he's not a vocal leader, more of a quiet, reserved guy. You add a guy like Grady Jarrett, a veteran in there that's going to be the leader of the defense. I'm excited about that. So with the trenches, do you think they're fixed, or should the Bears add more? How should the Bears operate now with the foundation, the veterans, the trenches being a little improved and upgraded?
I still think we need to bring in that competition at left tackle that Ryan Poles mentioned before free agency even started. I like the idea of drafting a tackle at 10 or trading back and maybe seeing what you can get. But I still need, that left tackle, and then I still need that defensive end.
That's super, because Dio, he's really good, like upside, really good potential, but we need that superstar elite pass rusher.
Right.
Which I
don't see him or compared to Montez Sweat, who you still probably tip your cap to Montez, right?
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
So
but I do like how Grady Jarrett and Dio now, it's more improved. There's more depth. Yep. You now don't have to worry about Montez having one-on-one, having Montez get double teamed.
Yep.
You could free him up, give him some more one-on-one opportunities. Excited about that. One thing I wanted to ask you though, with talks about Trey Hendrickson, we were big on that. That was the guy I really wanted the Bears to go after. Do you think it was a better move signing 2 guys, or would you rather have the Bears, go all in and get a Trey Hendrickson on the defense?
That's a tough question.
Because I think, with Grady Jarrett, the defensive tackle room is upgraded.
Yeah.
Dio,
and we have depth now, especially with Andrew Billings coming back from injury.
Yeah. And Trey Hendrickson, we wouldn't have been as flexible. We wouldn't have been able to.
Yeah, we would have had to probably reset the market.
$30 million probably. He would have took this defense line to the next level, but I think getting multiple pieces on defense line, and Dio, he could play defensive tackle, he could play defensive end, fits what Dennis Allen wants to do. I think I think I would lean more towards going this route, and if you get an edge rusher in the draft, we don't have to give up capital for Hendrickson. We keep all of our picks intact, and Hendrickson is 30 years old too, so I think maybe that's a smarter route. I think that's probably.
I agree. Just because you'd have to trade draft assets.
And we already were giving up assets. So now looking at the grand scheme of things, seeing everything, seeing the moves that the Bears did make instead, I would lean more towards that way now.
Yeah, I don't like overpaying in free agency and double paying with trades. You see the trades we made. We give up a 5th and a 6th for starting left tackle guards. I mean, that's a home run in my book.
100%. Yeah, giving up a 4th-round pick in the 2026 draft is insane to get an all-pro level left guard. But with Dennis Allen, these new pieces on the defense, you think this Bears defense could be a top 5 defense?
Yeah, I think we can because we were flirting with that early in the season last year. I think our run defense did take a step back last year compared to the year prior. But secondary, linebacking core, there was no doubts there.
Yeah.
It was really up front. And once Billings got hurt, shit kind of fell apart. So now we have the depth we need. We addressed that. We got playmakers. We should be able to get to the passer a lot faster than we were last year. Yeah. That was extremely hard to watch.
And I think
Jordan Love
having all day
relaxed in the pocket.
Any quarterback was relaxed. The run game, we were getting shredded too. I think just Eberflus, he was more of a passive defensive coordinator.
Yeah, he didn't blitz a lot. Where Dennis Allen has some really good blitzing.
Dennis Allen is more
schemes.
aggressive.
So I like, even if we didn't get that blue chip at defensive end in free agency, he'll be able to scheme some things up to make sure we get pressure and still have quality on the back end to make sure people are covered.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see this defense. We can get, an offensive lineman, a defensive end. We can get a running back in the mix. Like, we have a lot of flexibility, so I think this defense is going to be a top 5 defense next year. Yep. I think all the players across the board are going to play better. Who do you think is going to benefit the most from, being in Dennis Allen's scheme and just having a new defense come in? New defensive mindset. I think
hopefully Dio, right?
Yeah.
That's the name?
I think he's a huge X factor.
Yeah.
This defense will be special if he is really good and he makes the most out of this. If he can be an 8-sack guy, that changes things a lot for this defense. Just getting that amount of sack production opposite Montez Sweat. I think Montez Sweat will have a better year too. I think he'll be more double-digit sacks this year. I think Dexter too. Some people are saying Dexter might play defensive end too now. And you have Billings and, because where he fits in the scheme of things.
Looks way faster than Dexter.
Dexter slimmed down last offseason, so maybe he could slim down again. But I don't know. I think Dexter is very much an interesting defensive prospect, the size. You could move him around. He does have that versatility. I'm interested to see what they do with him, but I think Tremaine Edmonds is another guy that could benefit from this new scheme, being aggressive, a guy that's really good in pass coverage, really good linebacker, versatile. You can move him around things. Kyler Gordon would probably be my best answer. That I think will have the biggest year with the aggressive,ness, a corner that's got speed.
Yep.
Can fly around.
Put him anywhere on the field.
Yes, I think he's going to get maybe 3 to 4 sacks this year, just off the blitzes. I'm excited to see this defense be a little more aggressive, see them get after it. I think we have the talent there. Would you be interested in signing one more pass rusher, a veteran pass rusher? I'll give you 2 names, Matthew Judon or Zadarius Smith. We wanted Judon last year, but
bet on both.
Think about it.
Definitely not Judon.
Think about it. 5.5 sacks last year with the Falcons. But coming into this defense, he had to be the savior of the Falcons. That was the mindset. You're bringing him in to save that defense line.
He forced his way out of
He wanted
more money.
Yeah, he wanted more money.
They were right not to pay his that.
Yes, but bringing him in as a rotational edge, not your starting defensive end, I think it makes sense. And
it's slow.
If the money makes sense, yeah, a little bit. But I think it would be interesting. Zadarius Smith, though, 9 sacks last year, 10 sacks the year before.
He wasn't the same when he got traded to Detroit, though.
I think he had like 5 sacks with Detroit.
Really?
Yeah, he was pretty solid. No, he had 4 sacks in like 6 games or something like that.
That's pretty impressive.
So, and he's good against the run, long defensive end.
Yeah.
He's played for every NFC North team other than the Chicago Bears. So adding him into the mix.
You might have sold me on it.
I wouldn't mind it. And you still draft, like, a Michael Williams from Georgia, or you draft, one of the Ohio State pass rushers. One of them, JT Tumalalu.
Yeah, I like him.
Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name right, but he had 6.5 sacks in the college football playoff, the 4 games.
Damn.
Went fucking crazy. So adding him, he'll probably be there second, third round. So, and then you look at a defense line with Dexter, Grady Jarrett, Billings, Dio, Montez Sweat, Zadarius Smith, and JT from Ohio State, pass rusher. That moves me. That defense is scary.
Yeah, I love investing in the pass rushing aspect, especially since we got the back end shored up, hopefully, if Brisker comes back healthy.
Yeah. So hopefully that's a big if.
And we still, I still like us picking the safety up.
I like the safety from
the draft, but
there's some good safeties available. Malachi Moore from Alabama. Xavier Watts would be a nice get, but that's a little rich. Maybe you get him in the second round. The safety from Notre Dame, he's nice.
Really?
Yeah, but you got to think about it too, because Kevin Byard, how many more seasons do we got out of him? He's
1 year left on his deal.
Yeah, he's getting older, so he was a good player for us last year. But right now, currently, what do you think the biggest needs for the Chicago Bears are? I think we're in a good spot.
Yeah, I think we're in a good, not great spot.
Maybe running back?
I think running back is the biggest one. Sweat is a change of pace, and he's a home run hitter, but he's not a 3-down back.
Yeah, Swift is not a 3-down back.
And even last year, they didn't even use him much in the pass game.
And it was really bad because he was running behind a poor offensive line.
Right, and he's the type of back to go sideways.
Yeah.
Or make too many cuts, which doesn't make anything better.
No, it doesn't. And we saw that a majority of a lot of people were questioning his vision. Mm-hmm. Just a lot of slander on his name earlier on in the season. I think running back, some offensive line depth. Maybe you go another edge to add into the mix. Safety.
What about trading up?
Trading up to get who?
Shit,
Mason Graham?
Mason Graham or Abdul Carter? Abdul might be too high.
That might be too rich. That might cost us a decent amount.
Yeah.
I would trade up for Mason Graham.
You know who else I like?
Who?
That receiver from Arizona, too.
Can you imagine? He might fall to 10.
He's cold.
But, we can get into this right now. At pick 10, you're in a luxury right now. You could take whatever you want. Because I feel like offensive line, too, Braxton Jones could be a serviceable left tackle for you. Mm-hmm. And, there's talk about Will Campbell not potentially being a sure thing prospect. Kevin Banks.
Short arms.
The left tackles that are the best left tackles in the draft, some of them are slated to be better guards. And Josh Simmons, probably the best left tackle in the draft if he didn't tear his ACL at Ohio State. Injury concerns with him. The medical's got to check out. Tyler Warren, Genty, who are your favorite prospects you would want to take at 10? McMillan, though, big body receiver, Drake London comparisons, can go up and get all the 50-50 balls, and he's got a 4.48 speed to him, too. Just ran that at the pro day. I mean, you're kind of like Caleb Williams. Here you go.
Yeah, and, a lot of people have Ashton Genty going early.
Yeah,
earlier than 10 at least.
He could go to the Raiders.
Yeah,
they just picked up Raheem Mostert, in free agency. He's 31 years old.
Going to be here.
No.
Started. He might.
So I think really the only team we'll probably have to compete with in the first 10 picks is the Raiders, mm-hmm. But I could see them going, a different direction. Maybe they could go get McMillan. They could go get, Will Johnson, cornerback from Michigan. I think that's really, I've seen Harrison Graham say that too, what's worst case scenario for a player at 10, and it's Will Johnson, because secondary, that's a really rich pick for the Bears. Not the biggest need. I think nobody's we need corners. We're pretty much good. We're pretty good at the secondary. Will Johnson's a phenomenal player. I think he'll be a great NFL player, but we're not asking for a corner. So Genty, I think there's a lot of smoke behind that. I think he said in multiple interviews he would want to be
favored to pick him.
He said multiple interviews he would want to be a Chicago Bear, and I think Swift and Genty really that would be a really good duo together. They complement each other pretty well. Swift more as a finesse back, but Genty running behind Drew Dalman and Joe Thuney? Come on. And people are mad about his size. They say, he's like 5'8" and stuff, but...
Yeah, he's 215, though.
He's the same size, I think, as LaDainian Tomlinson was coming out of school.
Nah.
LaDainian was like 5'8".
Nah.
He wasn't?
5'10", probably.
I seen somebody say he was 5'8", too.
Come on, man.
Somebody else, another running back, but...
Trust me, I know how... That's my favorite.
He was an LT Glazer back in the day. No, rightfully so, though. Respectable glaze.
5'10".
Barry Sanders was 5'8". Barry Sanders was nice.
Yeah, I think with him, you're looking at who they comp him to, Ray Rice and Maurice Jones-Drew.
Maurice Jones-Drew was nice back in the day, too.
Both of them were very nice.
I think he has a higher ceiling than those guys, though.
Better than Maurice Jones-Drew, I think, led the league in
he could be better. Genty will be better than those guys.
Got a chip. He was nice.
I know, yeah. Ray Rice was.
So if we're getting a higher ceiling than that, then yes, draft him, no question.
And look at it like this: Caleb Williams already has the weapons to throw the ball to. We don't have a run game. That's a perfect thing for a young quarterback to have. You have a good offensive line. This would be a dangerous offense. I've seen people say the Bears could be a top 5 offense with Genty. Where did I have it at?
But I do really like Tyler Warren. Mm-hmm. Just because the running back room is deep, or the running back draft class is pretty deep.
Yes.
And it always is.
And you think about it.
And we don't have the number 3 we had last year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and if we're going to go Zacchaeus as our number 3, and Ben Johnson runs a lot of 12 personnel.
Right.
So having Tyler Warren and Cole Kmet.
The playbook and the creativity.
Oh, yeah. You could put him in wildcat situations, line them up. You could do a lot of things with them. And Cole Kmet is still a pretty good tight end, but he's in year 6. Tyler Warren can come in and be that.
Underperformed last year.
Yeah, and so I think Ryan Poles, what he does is a good job of. Another thing is seeing what's ahead. Mm-hmm. In the draft, you get a Darnell Wright, really good, tackle at that point. Caleb Williams, you draft a Rome Odunze at pick 9 when you know that this Rome Odunze would be the best receiver in this draft class this year, if you think about it.
Yeah.
So Tyler Warren is a sure prospect at tight end. Who knows what the tight end class looks like next year? And you could get a Quinshon Judkins at Ohio State.
Right, that's who I want. I like
even Damian Martinez from Miami is a solid running back. He would be a pretty good addition. But yeah,
Marion Hampton too.
And people are saying there's not that big of a gap between Hampton and Genty. So the Bears are in a good spot either way. I don't think anybody's going to be mad anymore if the Bears take Genty at pick 10.
No, I think that's a win.
It's a win. I feel like that's a pretty safe pick. Like I said, I think we'd be mad about Will Johnson, the corner. But
no corner.
Anybody else, the tackle from Missouri, we talked about him a little. It would be, would he play left tackle? Would he play, would Darnell Wright switch over left tackle? I think Tyler Warren and Genty might be my 2 favorite picks right now for 10.
Me too.
You get in a trade down situation and you take Mykel Williams.
I like Mykel too. 6'5", long.
Pause.
265.
I know he's got a good frame to him. And
that's still a big need for us.
The thing about him too is he had more sack production at Georgia when Georgia rotates a lot of their defensive linemen than Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter when they were at Georgia. So I think he had 14 sacks in the last 2 seasons over there. But
yeah, he had 5 last year.
Yeah, the production was pretty good for him. Very good disruptor. So I would like that addition too. How dangerous though do you think the offense would be with Genty? You add him in the mix.
I think it would be. I still think we're missing something.
What more do you want?
But no, I think it's going to be super dangerous, and I think it'll allow.
It will open up the things for Caleb as well.
What's our current running back?
Swift.
Swift. I was going to say Sweat. I think it'll put him in his natural place. And wasn't he in Detroit when Ben Johnson was there?
Yeah, he was. He played with Ben Johnson.
So he knows what to do with Swift. So I think
it'll be a poor man's Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. He'd be the poor man in that situation because I think Genty would be nice.
Yeah, I think Genty could easily get 1,000 yards. If not more in year one.
So I would go Genty at 10, and then offensive line and D line at pick 39 and 41, pick 72, maybe safety.
Maybe.
Because then you got I think you got 2 5th-round picks and then a 7th-round pick or something. So we need to hit while the strike while the iron's hot in those first 4 picks. So. Yep. I'm excited though. This is gonna be this draft. We gotta throw a party for draft or something.
Oh no, ain't no question.
Especially night one to see how it goes. But that covers it all for the latest Bears news, the latest Bears talk. This is the number one spot to come for Bears talk, Bears information. We break it down for you and give you all the updates you need, all the coverage you need, exactly how you would give it to how people be saying. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. And check out Six Man Blitz, our other channel. Check us out over there for NBA, NFL content. Stay updated with Chi-Town Blitz for all the Bears content, Chicago Bulls content every now and then when they're worth talking about. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. As always, peace. But I would want him to get an extension done with Keenan Allen. I would want him to stay with the Chicago Bears for maybe 2 or 3 more years because he's coming off his best season last year with the Chargers.